So let's talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of PFAS. And they're called forever chemicals. PFAS are called forever chemicals because they resist breakdown, and they're linked to fertility issues, endocrine disrupting, so hormonal problems, mental health issues, brain health issues, fertility, autoimmune problems, cancers. Can we start with clothing? Anything that's water resistant or stain resistant, think of like non-stick cookware, eye contacts.
We get asked this regularly.
Yes, we do.
So
this is a regular
That's a
occurrence.
great question.
The study was done.
But he is on 5 milligrams once daily of tadalafil for erectile dysfunction. Is this safe, or is there something else more natural that he can do?
Well, what's up and welcome to the Art of Being Well. Basic labs miss so much when it comes to people discovering why they feel the way that they do or how they can feel their best. Issues like nutrient deficiencies, hormone imbalances, environmental toxins, which we're going to talk about some today, underlying gut problems. I could go on and on. There's a lot of objective pieces to people's health puzzle that can be quantified on labs that aren't oftentimes ran in the standard model of care, because that mainstream model is largely, it's trained, its place is to diagnose a disease and match it with the medication. So if that's the training and if that's the model, that's what you're going to get. But in functional medicine, we're more concerned with, okay, why do we have this problem in the first place? And let's look at the science and labs and diagnostics and information that we have at this point in the scientific literature, which we explore on this podcast. How do we apply this in people's lives? How do we figure out why people feel the way that they do and get to the root cause? So if you want to learn more about a functional medicine perspective on labs and diagnostics and what to do about those labs, check out drwillcole.com. Go over to the Become a Patient page, the consultation page, to learn all about it. All right, about twice a month, right? At this point, we have an entire episode. It is people's favorite episodes, I think. I hear the most feedback, I would say, from people that listen to the pod that end up being telehealth patients or people on social media. They love the Ask Me Anything. So if you want your health questions answered, email hello@drwillcole.com, and the patient experience team puts it on a Google Doc, and we get to as many of them as possible in these Ask Me Anything episodes. And to help me out every AMA episode, we have two members of my clinical team, two functional diagnostic nutrition practitioners, Emily and Andrea. What's up?
Hello.
Hi.
So, hi.
Hi.
Excited to be here.
Just trying to change up my introduction. Hey, hi.
Hello.
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 Oh,
It's me.
Anyways, already digressing. We should get back on track.
okay.
Can't take us anywhere.
Yeah, right.
No.
All
You've
right.
spent too many years with us.
I know, guys. No, we're like family. Okay, so let's jump into what's the first question we're going to get to.
Okay, we're just going to dive right in. This one, I think we're going to talk about longer than than some of our questions that we normally get, but I think it's just because it's a big one to unpack. And they said, I have been hearing so many things about PFAS, and I wanted to hear Dr. Cole's take on this. What are the everyday brands that are highest in these, and do you have any swap recommendations? And we've definitely talked about this on the podcast before, but not
brand specific. Yeah. So after the PFAS episode, this has been a number of months ago, but we've been meaning to tackle this because we had a PFAS episode for the mental health is physical health episodes, which is like a clinical deep dive series within the Art of Being Well podcast. So go back and listen to those episodes if you want to. But after that episode, I got asked, like, well, what are some swaps? Like, what are some brands? Because we didn't really get into all of that. We didn't have the time to. We talked about what to do about PFAS. If you are interested in microplastics and PFAS, go back and listen to that previous episode. So let's talk about brands. Look, the reality is there's not a lot of transparency in a lot of brands. And there's not a lot, not every brand has been looked at from a PFAS content, right? So there are some brands that are scrutinized because they've been studied and looked at and they were part of a report. So I don't want to be clear on this. This is not an exhaustive list. There's so many brands out there, and I'm not picking on the brands that are in the reports. They just happen to be in the reports. So let's talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of PFAS. For people that don't know, quick definition, it stands for per polyfluoroalkyl substances.
So descriptive.
It's a classification of about 14,000 to 15,000 different chemicals, a lot of chemicals. So they're just put in this sort of umbrella term of PFAS, and they're linked to fertility issues, endocrine disrupting, so hormonal problems, mental health issues, brain health issues, fertility, autoimmune problems, cancers. It is bleak when it comes to their implication on this. I am more concerned with empowering you on what you can do to minimize exposure and to heal. The body's amazingly resilient. But just so you know what we're dealing with, and they're called forever chemicals. PFAS are called forever chemicals because they are impervious. They resist breakdown, and they sort of break down into smaller, different substances, and they're highly mobile in the body. And they've been in our environment for decades. And my hope is that we start making bigger, stronger, broader measures in this country, in the state specifically, to ban them. I've seen reports, I think within this year, the EU is going to be banning PFAS like a few years ago, but it was going to be rolled out this year. Who knows? These things, when it involves government states, they typically take years. And that's within the environment already. So we have to start somewhere. So let's from an environmental health law standpoint, I hope there's stricter measures against these, but it's in the environment already. What are we going to do to minimize exposure? So let's jump into the reports that I'm aware of, and they're mainly based around. Can we start with clothing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So PFAS, when think of PFAS like anything that's water resistant or stain resistant. Think of like non-stick cookware. Like Teflon's a good example. It is very much coated in PFAS. And there you would think maybe like certain athletic wear that's sweat resistant.
Yeah.
That's going to be PFAS.
Yeah, even
Sports
like
bras.
children's clothing, like, you see like these fleece line, like onesies and things for the winter that they often are coated in these kind of chemicals.
Or makeup that is that is stain resistant. What would you call it? Waterproof makeup. Yeah.
No, I thought it was ironic. The one thing you said, it's like they fall under this umbrella, and umbrellas are one of the most toxic type of PFAS because of them being water resistant. So it's an accessory that you carry with you. And
so let's talk about these brands that I've seen reports being done that have more transparency in the manufacturing. Like, can we start with some F brands that have been scored F or A?
Are we? So we're allowed to like call people out on this?
Because this is already public knowledge. I'm just giving our listeners what's already in the resources.
I'm happy to do it. I just want to. Let's start with F.
Let's start with F. Okay, so these brands, not an exhaustive list, but
this is the truth and love, by the way.
Yeah, this is we're calling them to something greater. F, Coach, and Kate Spade.
Really, both of them?
Yeah. F, DNKY.
They're still around.
Sorry, Donna Karen. Andrew Mark, whatever the heck that is. Another F, Michael Kors.
Oh my gosh, Michael.
Another F, Jimmy Choo.
Oh, my shoes.
C plus, Abercrombie.
Wow.
And Fitch, Abercrombie Fitch, and Hollister.
Okay.
B minus.
My kids will be.
Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, American Eagle, Aerie.
Andrea I love that you look at me because
she's a poster child for American Eagle. B, Gap, Old Navy.
Okay,
I like that.
B plus, Ralph Lauren, some say, and Polo. A minus, Victoria's Secret.
What?
And Pink.
I am shocked. Truly.
This is not fake.
I should have kept my pink pants for all this time.
I'm
you only knew.
shocked right now.
An A plus, Levi's and Dockers.
Okay, I'm a Levi's girl to the core. So
that was just indoor clothing brand. Outdoor clothing brand, I'm not going to get in. REI Co-op is an F.
Wow.
Columbia and Prana F. LL Bean is a D.
Oof.
Okay.
North Face and Timberland, D. Patagonia, B.
But they have some they're more recent, because from what I was reading is that they're older Patagonia stuff.
So
Yes,
they've made
well, they
changes.
promise.
Yes.
Patagonia promised
These
and
are people
did
who
it.
made a change
Okay.
and now they're bumped up.
Exactly.
So
Stuck
let's
to your
give
word.
them the
Let's do
snaps they
shoes real
deserve.
fast. Skechers, F. Under Armour, F. Nike, D+.
Oh, wow.
New Balance, C-. UGG and Teva, A-.
Okay.
I told you, I'm an UGG
Keen,
girl.
A-.
Tevas.
Okay, so that's clothing. I don't want to belabor this too much. Some other areas that there have been research done on, and people, and when I talk about this research on social media, they'll go wild. And it's eye contacts.
We
So
get
they-
asked this regularly.
Yes, we do.
So-
This is a regular
This
That's
occurrence.
a great question.
The study was done in an EPA approved lab, and they found that contact lenses range from a massive range of PFAS, 105 parts per million, all the way to 20,700 parts per million. None of this is healthy. There's not like a microdose of PFAS that we should be normalizing. But the higher, the worse, and the more accumulated over time, right?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, these are highly mobile. Within the system, there's not a lot of studies looking at what PFAS do directly on the eye, but there was a Chinese study in 2020 that linked PFAS to different eye inflammatory diseases. But my mind would go to, yeah, okay, of course, the localized eye issue potential, but the systemic absorption. And
Right.
what's the absorption rate of the eye? There's not a lot of studies done on that, but we can assume
Yeah.
there's going to be that these are highly mobile and they're within the system, and there's a lot of liquid as far as fluid is concerned. So, anyways, they didn't test a lot of brands, so this is not an exhaustive list, but some of the three lenses with the highest amount of organic fluorine, which is the compound within that per and polyfluoride alkyl substances, they can measure fluorine to measure the amount of PFAS within the product. Alcon Air Optics.
I don't wear contacts, so these are all going to go over my head.
I don't know these brands. Alcon Air Optics with no hydroglide. For astigmatism had 20,000 parts per million.
Oh my gosh.
Alcon Air Optics Colors with Smart Shield technology had 20,700, and Alcon didn't do so well.
Yeah.
Some of the lowest brands that within this study was the AccuView Oasis with HydroClear Plus with UV
Okay, I've seen
blocking
commercials for that
was
one.
113 compared to 20,000. That's
Wow,
a massive
that is
difference.
Yeah.
huge difference.
Wow.
The Alcon Dailies Total One Day Water Gradient for astigmatism was 106. I did some research in preparation for today's episode, and there was another brand that I'll have to get to you. I don't know exactly where I put it. That is PFAS free. So what I would do is look for brands that are already doing third-party testing on I'll circle back while we get into something else. But look for brands that are doing the work to test for things like PFAS.
Yeah.
Because they're soft. I mean, they're plastic. They're basically have the potential to be very high in PFAS because of their malleability and the fact that they are resistant to bacteria. I mean, the eyes like it from a comfort standpoint, but they're filled with PFAS. So convenience comes with the price sometimes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And we want people to have better for you options. And
This is a random question, and this is a little off topic, but do they still make glass contacts? Was
don't
that
know.
a thing at one point in time?
What? I don't think I've ever heard of
Like,
this. I've never had contacts
yeah,
or glasses,
so
but
it's in the 1930s or what? Like,
Maybe. I don't know, but I'm wondering if there's
no,
like
I
another
don't.
thing.
To be honest with you, you could be right. I have no
Okay.
idea. Yeah.
Circle back to that. We'll
Yeah.
come back to that one eventually in another conversation about why you don't want to put sharp glass in your eyeball.
yeah.
But
Get a pair of glasses, okay?
so I was talking with a patient the other day, and I think this is really important to point out because she lives a very, I would say, relatively healthy lifestyle. This is not
Mhm.
someone who's ignorant to her surroundings, and she's in her mid-20s. She's not someone who's lived a long life where they would maybe have had more exposures. This is, to me, relatively young. That's how I know I'm getting old. But I would say that I would look at her and say, there's no known reason for her tox detect to come back extremely high. Multiple things in the red. So for anybody listening, think of it like red light, yellow light, green light. Green is, hey, we're going to be exposed to things. Yellow is, hey, something's going on. Let's pay attention. Red is, where the heck is this accumulation coming from?
Right.
And she had multiple in the red. And a lot of them were compounds that were found in flexible plastics. And my thought immediately goes to food containers, food storage containers. But even just hearing you talking about contacts, this is something we ask patients. Do you wear contacts? And this is another flexible plastic that you're literally putting directly into your eyeball.
Well, I think it honestly, just even talking about it, sometimes it seems a little daunting and a little overwhelming because, we think we're doing good things by, I switched out my plastic Tupperware for glass, containers, which you are doing really good things. And it is a little bit overwhelming to think about. But I do think we should at least become aware. And I think that something that we share with our patients a lot is, this isn't about an overnight, switch. This isn't perfection. It's just over time. How can we start becoming more educated, more aware? You should have transparency in the things that you're using on a daily basis. You should know what's in them. And so I think that, of course, we kind of tier, and I'd love your opinion on this too, Dr. Cole. We tier it out for patients of like, well, what are the most important things that you would start switching over?
Yeah. Is it your Jimmy Choos that you wear once or twice a year?
I would say the things that you're using.
Contacts every day.
Yeah, exactly. The daily use. What are you exposed to the most? What are you using the most? So for some people, you look at the contact lenses. Look at the products you're using on your skin. Look at your cookware. Look at the things within your kitchen that your food is on. You're eating every day. You're putting contacts in every day. You're using skincare every day. So I think that those are some of the top things. And then you're right. Like the random designer shoes or brands, maybe eventually make that swap. It's a personal decision of what's within your budget, what's overwhelming. Like it has to be predicated on you're not losing sight of your mental health and like becoming orthorexic and obsessive and like hyper focused on things. That stress and anxiety isn't good for your health either. So it's empowering yourself, making swaps, knowing the body's amazingly resilient through that process, and you don't have to be perfect to give your body like a really amazing chance to be optimal and thrive.
Yeah. And that's why we want to have these conversations. It's not to overwhelm, or you can even run labs, figure out what accumulation do you have? Like, is this something you need to be thoughtful and mindful about? Or do you have a little bit of flexibility? Are you a good detoxer? Are your exposures limited? Because we don't live in a perfect world. One of the ones that I think we need to talk about, because we're going to get back to your list, I think, but we'll jump into that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about condoms.
There we go.
I mean, think about it. It's like it's high PFAS potentiality.
This is not fair.
So the same EPA approved lab looked at not all condoms and lubes as well. Guys, we're getting super sexy over here. But we have to know this because from a contraceptive, sexual wellness, sexual health standpoint, we have to be empowered consumers. So some of the highest was Trojan ultra thin condoms for ultra sensitivity, nearly double the level. And the other one, that was the highest probably. That was the Trojan ultra thin.
Does it give a numerical value like the other ones?
Yes, it was. Let me get into the report here. So here's the highest ones that they tested.
While you're looking, there is good news.
13 parts per million, 25 parts per million. So nowhere near those contact lenses.
Wow, that's way lower than I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're talking about like wrapping a body part in plastic.
Their concern is vaginas and penises have thin skin, so it's highly absorbed, and there's more studies on the absorption rate of that area versus your eyes. So again, some people are using these more than others, but I would say this is something to consider.
When even as you're talking about that though, you think about things like lichen sclerosis and like just these different like autoimmune conditions that when we think of that,
just perimenopause, postmenopause dryness, like in the lubricants that people are using. and we talk about this regularly with patients from not condoms necessarily, but birth control. I mean, there are only so many types of birth control and so many things
and
that
then
people
are like that want to avoid the hormonal birth control. They're like, oh man, I cannot win because now you're telling me condoms.
That's exactly how I felt. It's like, I've never been on birth control ever. And I'm like, oh, this is what I use. And then you bring this up and I'm like,
but
what
look, there's some ones that have no detect fluorine. Glide, the Glide brand, the PS Good Times brand, and Sustained Natural.
I've literally never heard of these.
There's actually a couple more
get these in stores.
Give us some other brands that are doing
Lola, Ultra Thin, and then Mod Rise condoms. I also had the Glide, the Sustained Naturability, and did you have Lovability on yours?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Are those all
they're
zero
either they're PFAS free and or fragrance free, non-toxic, pH balance. Like they all have different things that they can tout. Based off
great.
Of their
and going back to contacts real fast because I don't want to forget, the contacts lens that claims their transparency is that they do PFAS testing and they are PFAS free is Eon lens.
How do you spell
EIYAN? Eon or Eon? I don't know. Ian.
Want to be a sponsor?
Yeah, right. That's a brand that is, transparent with their PFAS content.
Yeah.
Cool. So there are options. That's the point here. You can still have convenience. Let's just go and support brands that are doing the extra work right now. And hopefully as more information comes out and consumer awareness comes out, more and more brands will do the extra work or fix the things that are off in their manufacturing process.
I think one of the big ones for me, at least when I'm talking with patients, getting started is cookware for sure. I think that is a big one that we need to talk about because you're cooking the food that you're going to be ingesting in these pans. And so, I mean, there's a lot of good options.
And you're using high heat.
Yeah.
This is not just, I'm putting something on my counter in this. I'm heating this up.
For that, I recommend Caraway and Our Place.
Our Place
and Caraway, or like a cast iron.
I was going to say cast iron, stainless steel is another option. Glass, bakeware is something that I use. And you can get a lot of these at secondhand store, like Goodwills, like different places where they have secondhand use products. There's a lot of really amazing cast iron products that people don't think about. And sustainable. You're not just buying and purchasing new things.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to know something I learned on TikTok?
What?
Oh boy.
Well.
Did you know? Why does that sound like a loaded question?
Yeah.
Okay, stainless steel. Whenever we bring up stainless steel, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to use that because my food always sticks to that.
Are you talking about the water?
Don't ruin it for me.
Sorry.
Andrea already
stealing your thunder.
Have your sibling rivalry. Go
ahead.
It
really is. But if you let the pan heat up, because everyone always says that my food will stick if I have to switch to stainless steel. But if you let the pan heat up for 5 minutes and you splash it with water, if the particles instantly move around,
dispel,
then it's ready to be heated and your food won't stick to it.
What a pro tip.
You're welcome.
This is going to go viral on social now.
Andrea,
you're welcome,
had to
social
steal
media.
it from
You're welcome.
Me, but
I just knew what
it's
you were
fine.
talking
She's
about.
like my mother. I call her that all the time. I
also am not
Mima.
on TikTok though. So for me to know that was actually impressive.
You'll see it in a reel 2 weeks later.
You're that meme that's like, I'm old enough to watch the TikToks that made its way to Instagram.
Yes, 100% that is me. I'm a normal adult. I wait till it gets to Instagram.
Yes, of course. Some other brands I will say that have very transparent PFAS policy, H&M, which basically my entire clothing is H&M.
Since you were 17 years old.
Their company is, we banned PFAS in our apparel, homeware, and shoes in 2013, and an H&M Group branded cosmetics in 2018. So kudos to H&M.
Wow.
Benetton. Is it Benetton? Benetton? I don't know. They have another transparent. They have 98 compliance, a PFAS free. So they're doing things.
Maybe I
Burberry,
need to look them up.
long and short chain PFCs are banned from use. Levi Strauss, we talked about that as one. Uniqlo, another place I shop. I just like affordable clothing.
You were excited about that one.
We worked with our business partners to develop alternatives to PFAS and had eliminated PFAS use by the fall/winter season of 2017.
Wow.
That's really impressive because they have t-shirts that are like $10, $15. These are very affordable things. But American Eagle still made the list. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. And look, randomly, Lowe's and Home Depot they're phasing out.
Really?
In 2019, they were phasing it out. Home Depot was.
Okay.
Phasing it
And
out of
Lowe's,
what?
Their flooring. It looks like they're flooring
Oh, that's
Oh.
and
cool.
carpets and rugs. Carpets
That's
and rugs.
really
Wow.
wow. When is that going to officially take place?
Well, it looks like 2019 they were phasing it out, so I don't know if it's
Wow.
fully done. So
Okay.
they were ahead of the curve, I think, before a lot of people were talking about this as far as brands are concerned. So I think we covered a lot.
The one thing I would
right?
point out, furniture.
Yeah.
People don't think about mattresses and furniture.
Well, yeah, I
very
talked about
often.
rugs. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
You have to. The more you can get things that are in more
Yeah.
natural fibers like wool, linen, cotton, the better it's going to be.
Right.
And then you have to think about what they're stuffing in that. Especially for your mattress, even people don't think about this because you don't see it, but you spend a third of your life, or you should be spending a third of your life sleeping on it. And you're breathing, you are rolling, you are sweating, you are like, this is like a place that you are laying continuously, hopefully for 8 hours.
Yeah. Well, I have some resources here.
Oh, good. There you go.
PFAS, this is about policies. Naturepedic organic mattresses, cribs, and bedding made from materials like organic cotton, organic wool, or latex for adults, certified organic mattresses. They are PFAS free. Plush beds, no member of the class of PFAS is intentionally used in any of the plush bed products, which that's another thing too, is I talk to people within the milk space, CPG like products, that things you get at Target or Walmart, and they are PFAS free as far as they're intentional, but they are finding that it was in the plastic machines that go in the udders of the cows.
Wow. Oh, I remember reading
So
about
the
this.
plastic
The little
was
sucker
degrading.
things.
Well, I think I told you about it. So it's not that's not public news, but it's so it's things like that. It's like plastic is everywhere. So this potential to be anywhere. This milk company's not trying to put PFAS in the milk. It's just in products that they're using. So this isn't always intentional. IKEA. Love IKEA. In 2016, IKEA phased out PFAS chemicals from all IKEA textile products.
Okay.
Go IKEA.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I think we give people a lot of the EWG is a great resource here. So look up the Environmental Working Group PFAS. They have done sort of the aggregation of the data that is out there.
Can I throw out one more that people don't often think about? Disposable coffee cups.
Oh,
So every time this is a great opportunity for you to bring your own sustainable mug, travel mugs, different things like that. But there's a reason it doesn't leak when you put hot water or hot beverage
well,
in
even
it.
just thinking of the little K-cups and Nespresso pods and things like that.
And the tubes and the hot water is running through and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So there's different ones out there. So again, look at those brands and see does that brand test for this and are they free of it?
Not to sound like I'm trying to take us back to 1910, but the more sustainable things, the more reusable things that we have, the more we're going to limit these exposures.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. Start with something and work your way there. It doesn't have to be overnight.
Yeah. Great.
Love it.
All right. So hopefully that was helpful, guys. What's the next question?
Awesome. All right. So we have a great question that we got recently, and I love that this person gave us some clinical context. Okay. So it's a little bit of a longer question.
Okay.
But
yeah. The first half is what? Mostly clinical context to get to the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. So this person said, I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, IBS, switching between constipation and diarrhea, and possibly SIBO. Additionally, I'm pre-diabetic. I'm seeking advice on how to reduce my bloating, regulate my blood sugar levels, and lower inflammation. Okay. I attempted the low FODMAP diet, but struggled with its completion and ultimately gave up. To manage my blood sugar, I try to eat foods with a low glycemic load. However, I recently learned that foods with a low glycemic index can still have a high insulin index, like milk and eggs, which causes insulin spikes and contributes to insulin resistance. I'm confused about how to navigate my dietary choices concerning the insulin index while managing my autoimmune conditions. How should I approach foods with a high insulin index to avoid worsening insulin resistance while still considering their potential impact on my symptoms? Moreover, I read that fiber can be beneficial for blood sugar control, but aggravates IBS symptoms. This contradiction is quite perplexing, as what helps one issue seems to worsen the other. How can I balance increasing my soluble fiber intake to improve blood sugar while avoiding worsening my IBS symptoms, such as bloating and cramping? Which types of fiber would be most beneficial and well tolerated for me, considering both my IBS and potential SIBO issues?
Okay, so this is actually a pretty common balancing act that we have clinically with telehealth patients. What's great for your metabolism, your blood sugar, hormones, you could say that, may not be the best for your gut. So you may see things that you've read or heard about in a podcast. It's like, this is good for your hormones. This is good for your blood sugar. This is good for whatever, energy levels. And it's not working with your digestion. So when you do it, it's causing looser stools, bloating, constipation, an IBS flare-up, an IBD, inflammatory bowel colitis, ulcerative Crohn's flare-up. No matter what you're dealing with as far as the sort of gut inflammation spectrum, we get that because this is what we've really focused on clinically. But then we also have people, they aren't just that digestive disorder diagnosis. They are also, they may have hormonal problems.
Right.
They may have blood sugar issues. So what do? You have to prioritize what is more upstream. And in my clinical opinion, for most people, you're going to get more sustainable resilience and stability when you focus on your gut health first. And the more you resilient and healthy you get your gut, the more stable that is going to help your blood sugar.
Right.
The more stable that's going to help your hormones and all the other things. So if you look at sort of the order of operations, my advice for the average person, again, every case is different. So there's bio-individuality for this, but I would say statistically speaking, you're going to get more of a needle moving significance, like improve, getting the person feeling better faster whenever you focus on their gut health. And that may look like lower fiber or zero fiber.
Yeah.
For a time.
Yeah.
Think of it as like a proverbial cast on a broken, so to speak, gut. You don't always have the cast on, but if you did, you would get atrophy and it would smell really nasty and it wouldn't be good, right? To use that cast analogy. But there's a time and place for it, and it's healing, it's mending, it's getting you your broken bone resilience. And that's what we do with different nutrition protocols and other biohacking and supplement protocols to be that proverbial cast.
Yeah.
And then there's a time for a sling, and then there's a time to take that sling off and live your life. So that's kind of the gauge there. Fiber's one tiny part of that conversation. So yeah, we have to meet your gut where it's at. So it may be very, very low fiber for a time because everything's flaring it up. Everything's irritating it. And then you low and slow titrate fiber and other food reintroductions over time. But not all fibers are created equally. I have to say that. There are fibers from whole foods, like fruits, and making them more digestible by even like cooking them down. Mm-hmm. You're getting things like beta glucans and inulin fiber that are within the foods in its whole food form that are fine. Or even we recommend supplementing with fiber sometimes because it's kind of nice because you get one type of fiber and you can get the dose pretty clearly. It supports all the amazing benefits of fiber, which is clearing out toxins and clearing out excess cholesterol and improving GI motility, adding bulk to the stool. There's a lot of reasons why you'd want to get fiber in your diet, but you don't want to do it at the expense of, every time I'm taking this thing I read that was really good for me, it's causing me a GI flare-up. We can't do that. That's going to be the goal with time, but we have to meet your gut where it's at. Yeah. So start with whole foods, start off low and slow if you do have inflammatory bowel issues, but you have to ask the question, why am I having this digestive problem? Yeah. It's not the fiber's fault. So let's deal with why the gut's stressed. Maybe it is bacterial imbalances like SIBO. Maybe it is an autoimmune problem. Maybe it is an environmental toxin that's irritating all these things. So maybe it's a food sensitivity of another food. And then when you go off of that food, then it will not overreact to whole foods with fiber in them, or even a fiber supplement. Mm-hmm. So we have to look at the context of why we have such a little tolerance to a fiber supplement or a fiber from food.
Right.
So that would be my overarching take on that.
And this is someone that I think would do really well with the consult too, because again, when there's so many different things going on, this is what we do is we can help prioritize the systemic approach. Where do we need to get started, and what's at the root of these problems too? And so, Andrea, I think though you'd be someone really good to talk to about this because we tease Andrea all the time, but with your history of autoimmune, SIBO-like symptoms, again, you've kind of had some revelation over this past year of how to deal with that a little bit more.
So I've obviously been doing this professionally for 15 years. I am someone, and you guys know this, I will do almost anything before I ask a patient to do it. I want to understand it.
Right.
I want to know the clinical relevance. I want to practice what I preach. I'm very much on that. And that's not to like pat myself on the back. I just think that that's what, if you really care about people and you really care about your job and
You
you're
can speak
passionate
from
about
experience.
I can speak from experience. And so I've done a lot of different things. Now, the caveat to that is it actually does benefit me because I was a preemie baby. I was a C-section. I was bottle fed. There was a lot of stress in my
And these
young
are questions
life.
that we ask.
These are all things that we know can shape a microbiome later on.
Yep.
I was on birth control from a very early age, 16 years old to the time I was in my early 20s. No one tells you anything. Anything you could do. I was working through college. I was getting 3 hours of sleep, everything you could do to wreck your body. And then you add a family history of autoimmunity and component and layer in other things like chronic infections like Lyme and mold exposure. That's a recipe for me to look exactly like some of our most dysfunctional patients. Now, I've been fortunate enough that I've walked through it for 15 years now, but that doesn't mean life isn't still happening to me. And it had been a little bit of a stressful personal season, caring for sick grandma, some other personal things that we were going through. And my gut health was just not doing well. And I'm talking, guys, we're talking paleo life. I'm eating a pepper and I'm bloated. It just should not be happening because it's not the food's fault. I know that it's the state of my gut. And so I have been on carnivore. Oh my gosh, it's on 5 months now. Strict carnivore, really just leaning into that. So obviously my fiber is way, way down. So I am supplementing. I am using things to help make sure that my bowel movements are. But from a blood sugar standpoint, my blood sugars actually look the best it's been because my body's under the least amount of stress that it's been in a really long time.
Yeah.
And those are things we have to consider too. This woman's talking about our blood sugar and trying to biohack herself into health. And I'm like, well, are you sleeping? Are you stressed? Are you supplementing well? To your point, Dr. Cole, let's start with the thing that needs to get fixed first, which is your gut health, and all things will flow from there. Is it then the foods that you should be able to have, the things that are going to benefit these other systems are going to benefit from that. And that's really all that we're saying here is evaluate what's the first thing you have to break apart? How do you dismantle this in a way to make sure everything is working well? Don't start with, sometimes low-hanging fruit's great, but it's not always the root.
Yeah, it's not the random fiber supplement.
Yeah, that's not going to fix what we're doing here. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think one of my favorite things about working with patients is helping them have that aha moment of how to dismantle this in a thoughtful, meaningful way to get the most impact. Because it's not, I don't want to be on carnivore for the rest of my life, nor should I be. But for right now, it is.
Desire.
No.
No desire over here.
Yeah. Listen, I miss my freaking cucumbers. That's what I miss. If someone was be like, what do you miss, Andrea? I'd say pineapple and cucumbers. I'm not sitting here craving a Dorito. I really do want these real whole foods, but I'm doing what I know needs to be done for this time.
And that's the thing. Is then we work clinically with patients who need to be on a protocol like that through reintroduction. What does that look like? Reintroduction looks so different for different people. So what we bring that back.
There can be some people that jump right into their raw salads, but they're having a cup of bone broth alongside of it. And then there's some people, it's let's start with a cooked berry compote. It just, don't get frustrated if you feel like your body's not responding. Maybe you just need some guidance. Maybe you just need someone who has clinical experience and can tell you, no, Sue, you're on the right track. Just hang in there. We're going to monitor. This isn't a forever thing.
That's right, Sue.
Yeah, Sue, you are right. Yeah, but I agree. You might be doing an incredible job managing with what you know how to manage, but there are absolutely clinical and therapeutic ways that we can go beyond that too. And that's what I think is so important, because on a podcast, we can only, do so much and give so much.
So much context.
Yeah, I'm reading this question. I'm like, what childhood trauma do you have? Like, where did the SIBO start?
Yeah.
I just start dissecting it. But I think it's great for the general listener, for one, to just take a walk away from this going.
Insider tips of things to consider, things to research.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
things
sure.
to look at.
Things to look at, yeah. All right, next question.
All right, third and final question. Me and my husband eat healthy and don't want to take any medications, but he is on 5 milligrams once daily of tadalafil for erectile dysfunction. This really has helped our marriage. His urologist says it is safe, but I have heard that every medicine has side effects. Is this safe, or is there something else more natural that he can do?
Well, yeah, it's a perfect segue, because we're thinking about like childhood trauma and like all the backstories of health history and environmental factors and other medications they're taking. And there's so many different things. So understand the scope of which I can give hot tips here, pro tips. It's limited, but these are some things to think about that are science-backed, that are effective, that I've seen help people around the world. Some basic things like research shows walking. I mean, is he active? I mean, a lot of guys are going through erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, low libido, other metabolic problems because of insulin resistance. And that's really driving a lot of it. The liver makes an enzyme called aromatase, and the body then converts testosterone to estrogen. It's called over aromatization. So a lot of low T is driven by this metabolic dysfunction of insulin resistance, stealing basically in a way, lowering testosterone and converting these androgens into estrogens. So they can get fatty liver over time. This is more progressed versions of it, but it exists on a spectrum, right? And it may be mild, low testosterone. So there's a study that I'm aware of that walking just 30 minutes a day can lower erectile dysfunction, was linked with the erectile dysfunction decrease of 41%.
Wow, for 30 minutes a day.
30 minutes a day.
Buy a walking pad, guys.
Yeah, we have them. I mean, you guys do it on the visits?
Yeah, I walk probably about an hour and a half to 3 hours every day.
At the clinic, guys.
Yeah, I work at a desk for 10 hours a day, but I walk for about 3.
Yeah. Increasing nutrient density is associated, like anti-inflammatory whole foods, associated in the scientific literature with decreased erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
The actual look of your body, too, is a good way to gauge this. A man with a 42-inch waist is 50% more likely to have ED than one with a 32-inch waist.
Wow.
Yeah. And weight training, like, are they lifting weights with good form and building lean muscle? Because that's good from an oxygenation standpoint. It's good for cardiovascular health, which is a significant component of that. Some other things to consider would be nutrient deficiencies. Vitamin D is associated with ED. Magnesium is associated with ED, and vitamin C is associated with ED. So looking at nutrient deficiencies, some supplements that we like for supporting vascular flow and people that are struggling with ED would be L-arginine, ginseng, DHEA would be ones that we like.
Niacin.
Ginkgo, niacin. Yeah, anything that increases blood flow would be supportive tools within this category. But look at medications as well, right? We know that beta blockers, antidepressants, anti-androgens, like these are all medications that can, like, it really isn't anything they're doing lifestyle-wise. It's because of that pharmaceutical drug.
Yep.
And they're not on that pharmaceutical drug for ED, but it's one of the side effects of that medication.
Yeah.
So and then people are on medications for the side effects of the first medication. So it's sort of this thing that you have to take into consideration. Out of the box therapy that I think is promising, sorry, I just kicked you, is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT. It increases oxygenation. It heals endothelial lining.
Yeah.
So I love that as a tool,
Yeah.
like looking at food, looking at activity, looking at supplementation, looking at medication side effects, out of the box stuff like HPOT. If you've done all these things and you're not where you want to be, hyperbaric is a wonderful way to improve regeneration of our tissues, of our body. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, sleep and stress. Like, of course,
Yep.
Yeah.
basic stuff. But like, what's the sleep score? Or am in deep sleep, and then stress is another component of that.
Yeah.
Dr. Cole, I'd like to know your opinion, because we do get asked this by men a lot, especially from a hormonal standpoint. All of that is absolutely true. There's real physiological side effects of
Right.
medications, inactivity, all of that. But for men who are looking to maybe support their hormones, what do you think of things like Heart and Soil or Ancestral that have these male hormone blends?
Yeah.
And then also simple things like zinc glycinate, which can also improve testosterone. Like, what are your hot take, yes or no? Like, would this be something you'd layer in?
Yeah,
that's a good
erectile
question. Like the
dysfunction?
trends of like glandulars, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there's a place for that. I think we're a fan of nutrient density, obviously.
Yeah.
We're a fan of bringing organ meats into your diet. So the theory of like builds like the protomorphogen type understanding, I think there's enough data research out there to say that, yeah, it's going to be supportive. I don't know as much as it's always like builds like, but more of what's the nutrient density we're bringing in. What is
Right.
the actual vitamins and minerals that you need? I think that's the most important, and obviously the most science-based too. That these are the building blocks for healthy cardiovascular system, for healthy hormones, lowered inflammation levels, improved function. So that would be my advice. And zinc is in a lot of those. I mean, zinc is in organ meat. So you can, if you're focusing on nutrient density, you don't necessarily have to supplement with zinc, but zinc can be a supplement to consider, and experimenting with it certainly could be helpful.
Right. Yeah, I think I would agree with that too. We bring it in for a lot of our patients, right? Just as, as food medicines and things that are going to build nutrients too, but are they really going to move the needle by themselves? Probably not.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have to take some of those other therapeutic approaches alongside that too. But those are great things to, start bringing in, and also to alongside, even after you've taken these therapeutic approaches, to continue to do down the line as well, just to support your body.
For some people, it's as simple as I mentioned, insulin resistance is driving most of this. For some people, it's as simple as cleaning up their way they're eating, optimizing protein, focusing on healthy fats, not fearing healthy fats and grass-fed beef and organ meats, not fearing these foods, and polyphenol-rich fruits and vegetables, like just really focusing on bioavailable nutrient density. There's a broad swath of men that will completely resolve the issue. So start there. And then from there, lean into those other tips that I talked about.
Well, and movement. I know food is primary here, but movement is so important. Like you look at, even for, like, you go to your average chiropractor, they're going to tell you it's actually not the people who are in the field, electricians, carpenters. Yeah, they're going to have those very specific type injuries, but it's the people at the desk that are not moving for 8 to 10 hours a day that you're going to see the most decline of muscle mass. You're going to see that's going to impact your hormones. It's going to impact your resiliency. It's going to impact your fatigue, because sometimes with erectile dysfunction, just like we have to look at women with low libidos as well, is are you emotionally able to engage? Like, are you so fatigued that you're just so separated?
Yeah.
And that's creating an issue too. So it's a multi-layered thing. This person sounds like they don't have a lot of medications in their life outside of this. It sounds like it's good for their marriage, which is also important, obviously, but explore how much, like, I would almost take it as, like how Dr. Cole, you say, a check engine light. Like something's not going right somewhere, and this is the symptom of it now, but what does that look like in 10, 15 years?
Like cardiometabolic, I mean, especially for men, it's like, what's that? Is that a sign of this heart problem?
Yeah.
And we don't know unless you look there, right? And get a proper testing, get proper testing done.
Yeah.
So and I would say you don't necessarily, working with your doctor, have to come off of that medication cold turkey. For some patients, for many patients that are managing symptoms with medications, but their long-term goal is to improve function so they can slowly lower the dosage or use it less, or working with their doctor on decreasing the dose as their body's able to.
Yep. I think we should do a podcast one time of us while we're walking on our walking pads.
See, that would be quite noisy.
I was just gonna say, oh, swish, 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 swish. Like,
You'd be walking so fast. You'd be wearing your weight
I'd be
thing that you
powerless.
wear.
don't make fun of my weighted vest. Thank you.
I would be falling off. I don't know how you write an email while you walk. I walk
Andrea's like
crooked.
rucking at functional medicine at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
on her visits.
I
Hey.
walk crooked or something because I get dizzy when I write an email. Anyways, practice makes perfect, I guess.
We need to run some labs on you.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
That was great. Great episode, guys. Great questions. Keep them coming. Email hello@drwillcole.com.
I love reading them.
Yeah.
Guys, we try to get to all of them or find combined ones, but keep sending them in. It's really interesting and it helps us even look for guests to have on the show
Yeah.
as well. Even if it's not
Good
getting answered on an AMA, we do account for what people are desiring to learn about.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about all the stuff we're talking about and the show notes, it's at drwillcole.com. We'll see you next time.